right, welcome back to Wrestling Tonight. I am your humble hardcore host, Mad Dog Butch. Joining me, as always, I didn't think anything this week. Brace Beemer.
Yeah.
Hope everybody's having a great night tonight.
And our very special guest, straight from the Comics, Beer, and Sci-Fi television show, none other than The Q.
Nice golf
How's
clap.
it going? Thank you.
Now, before we get going, Q, I don't know if you've got a chance to watch our show, but we always like to give our special guests a gift. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any cool wrestling-related stuff, but I know you are a fan of DC comic books, so I got you this. The Black Manta submarine from
Thank you.
Aquaman.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No
Go
problem,
right
buddy.
with the collection. Thank you. All right.
Wow,
Yes.
look at that gift you're giving away.
I
over
know,
there.
man. I need to come back more often. No.
Well, we'll see how you do.
Okay.
today.
It's an audition, guys. It's an
Yeah,
audition.
So
a
is that
little
like a
litmus test.
Is that
There
a
you
ship
go.
gimmick? Is that what that is?
That
it's
is
Black Manta.
Black Manta's ship.
Ship,
You haven't
yeah.
seen Aquaman yet?
Yeah.
No,
Jeez.
not yet.
Oh, my
Oh,
goodness.
God. Spoiler alerts from Hot
Yeah,
Wheels.
don't look at it. Spoil.
I'll put it down here.
Give me that.
It gives away so much of the movie.
I can tell it's just completely not worth seeing right now. I can see the little ship.
No, yeah, you should check it out. Anyway.
Yeah.
But this week we are going to be talking about, in honor of Black History Month, which we got a day left to get it done.
Hey, we're sliding in, guys.
Yeah,
right at
we're-
the end
right
there.
at the buzzer.
If you didn't know why I was here, you should have known already. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm not trying to typecast you, but I've been thinking of a way. I wanted to bring you on anyway, but I figured
Yeah,
that this
no,
would be a
perfect.
good way to bring you on.
Perfect.
We don't want to be called haters or anything.
So, in honor of Black History Month, we are going to talk about our favorite, again, not necessarily the greatest, Black professional wrestlers in history. Now, not trying to rain on either of your parades, but I just want to say before we get going that here's a guy, I don't know if he'd be on any of your lists. He did not make my list because he was a little bit before my time. But here's a guy that definitely should be mentioned. And that is, especially in this area, a huge name, but a huge name anyway, because he was a pioneer in the sport, broke down a lot of barriers, and that is none other than Bobo Brazil.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So
Legend. That guy is about as big of a wrestling legend as you can get as far
Yes.
as names go.
Yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So,
And
Right.
really, we didn't see him around here until later in his career. He had some
Right.
matches with WWF and
Yeah.
some of the local shows around here.
Yep.
True
Exactly.
talent.
but if
Exactly.
it's before their time, you know it's before my time. But I'm going to say, yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Broke down a lot of barriers. A lot of the people that's probably on our list wouldn't be wrestling if it wasn't for him. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Big money
Exactly.
guy there, man.
yeah.
Yep.
Big money.
All right. Well, let's get right into it then. And there's a couple other guys too. I mean, we'll talk about it as the show goes on. But there's guys that probably are not on any of our lists that definitely should be mentioned as far as laying the groundwork
Oh, yeah,
down for,
pioneers.
Oh, no, yeah,
for
yeah,
future
Yeah.
future stars. But we'll start with you, Brace Beemer. Who is your number one favorite Black professional wrestler of all time?
Number one, my favorite is Kamala. Or
Really?
Kamala. Oh, yeah. Kamala,
Nice.
the Ugandan warrior. That guy, there's a lot of talk about people that, are have the greatest gimmicks of all time. The Undertaker, the original Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala is right up there. When that guy came into a territory, it was violence, but that's not all it was. That guy could move. He was agile. He was an athlete. Just had really great matches for being a big guy.
Yeah,
He didn't
no, I
try all the
agree.
scientific holds and all that, although he could do some of them. And I saw some of his stuff as Sugar Bear Harris before that. That's in hindsight,
Right.
going back and watching on YouTube. But yeah, Kamala, my number one. That guy was great, and he was money wherever he went.
I 100% agree. That's a great pick. And he didn't make my list. Just didn't see enough of him.
Oh yeah,
But No, Kamala.
Oh yeah, because you came around a little bit later.
Yeah, I came around a little bit. You know.
Young
Yeah.
whippersnapper.
A little
By the time
bit,
I started
little
watching wrestling, you know, I had more of an attitude. But
Right.
But no, just going back and watching some of those matches like with Hogan and all of them, he's a great performer. So I can agree and I can understand why he would be.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I actually have Kamala as my number 6.
Okay.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. For anybody that doesn't know the story, he was Sugar Bear Harris, and then Jerry Lawler gets the credit actually for creating the Kamala gimmick.
Wow.
Yeah, 1982.
In Mid-South Wrestling.
Okay.
And then it just boom took off from there. And when I started watching wrestling, I had probably seen him at some point, but I knew him probably more from the magazines. I mean,
Yeah.
Kamala was like a huge name, even though I didn't get to watch him on any of the shows like regularly until like later on. But yeah, Kamala definitely a huge pick. Unfortunately, later on, he's had to have both of his legs amputated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he's in a
I
wheelchair.
know one for sure.
Yeah, I think he's had both now at this point.
Yeah.
And he still gets out to the shows and stuff, the
he
Comic
does.
Cons and whatnot. So.
Yeah, and he creates his own music. Let's not
Oh yeah.
let's
That's
not
right.
forget that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
but-
think you can find that video like out on YouTube.
yeah, I think he might even have an album out.
I heard that
Yeah. So
country western style
Yeah.
album.
and another little fact, he was from Benton Harbor, Michigan.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah.
So yep.
Yeah, he debuted in 1978 as Sugar Bear Harris, manager Percy Pringle. You know who Percy
I
Pringle
know who
is?
Percy Pringle.
All right, and Percy Pringle would later be known as Ball
Right.
Bear.
In my opinion, the second greatest manager.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, wrestled everywhere in the South. Kamala, what a great.
Well,
Yeah, definitely great pick there, Brace Beemer. Q,
Well,
who is your number one favorite of all time?
should come as no surprise. He's actually black half Samoan. We already know the right.
He's disqualified.
Well,
Now I just want to say, for anybody that doesn't know, Q is quite a few years younger
yes.
than us. So he's definitely going to have a different take on things. But
I mean, I could have said
we
Coco
welcome him,
Beware,
so.
but no, I had to choose The Rock. No, The Rock for me. His talent. You don't have to say a lot about The Rock.
Yeah.
You say The Rock, and you understand why.
You could almost just say talent. Well, he is talent. He's so talented. He's got talent.
Yeah, yeah. No, like he's just done. He's not only has he broken down barriers for wrestlers to become actors, even though Hogan did it. but
Yeah,
The
there's
Rock
been a
actually,
lot before that.
yeah, but The Rock actually made good movies. Like, so I mean, there's a little bit.
yeah,
I
you
think-
missed our episode last week.
Yeah, but he actually made like good movies, not like No Holds Barred and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, The Rock was my era. Watching him go from beating Goldust, winning Intercontinental title, and but winning the Intercontinental, beating Goldust at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Watching that match and then watching him go from Rocky Maivia to just The Rock because we kept saying Rocky sucks, to watching
Right.
him grow into the main eventer. And then his matches with Austin are considered top 5 matches.
Yeah, what do you have? 3 of them
The
against
3
Austin at
WrestleManias.
WrestleMania?
Something like that.
They
And-
headlined WrestleMania 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say this: a lot of people consider the match with Hogan at WrestleMania 18
yeah.
one of the greatest matches of all time.
It could
And,
be.
I mean, we watched that match, and I mean,
Yeah.
it just the crowd reaction
Yeah.
alone was
It was crazy.
I mean, that like puts it up there.
And The Rock was, this was when, you had to buy pay-per-view, so you had to have a reason to ask your mom to spend that money
Yeah,
to buy, you know what I'm saying? So The Rock was a real reason I had a lot of pay-per-view events at my
He was
house.
a good enough reason for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, just that alone. But yeah, his and they consider that promo with him in Austin at WrestleMania 17 the greatest of all time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, he had the gift of gab, that's for sure.
one of the greatest
You
talkers.
cannot argue him being number one. I mean,
No.
Only person I
can't.
think the better talker is Flair. I think Flair's a
Than The
better
Rock?
talker. Yes,
yeah.
I think Flair's a better talker.
yeah, you're probably right.
but I do put Rock in.
But Rock is
too.
up. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, you can't deny The Rock had the tools. My knock on The Rock is, and it may not even be on him himself, but it was just wrestling was changing so much from the way that we grew up.
Right.
And he was kind of the face of that. One of the main things that I think bothers me about it, I want to say him, but really I can't blame him.
Right.
But because he's the face of it, I do blame him.
Yeah, I punish him too.
And that is because when we were growing up, even if there was like enhancement talent or a jobber, you didn't go out of your way to make that guy look foolish and bury him. Right. When The Rock came up, it was like a contest to see who could make their opponent look the most stupid as possible. And that was one thing that I learned in recent years. Like that was part of the deal with him actually breaking out with his promos, because he would be doing a promo against Triple H and he'd go backstage and he'd be upset. The Rock would be highly upset because he stuck to the script that they gave him, and Triple H was going off and burying him. So finally he was like, screw it. Well, I think somebody told him, and this is some old wrestling advice, like it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
Rings true in real life.
Exactly. So he started going out there and doing his own thing, and I think that kind of skyrocketed him.
And like you said, it was the era of everything just, kind of turning the wheels, and WCW really started that.
Another big
with
money
the
guy.
edgier content, and WWE had to catch up, and it just so happens that we were in that punk era where kids were rebelling and rap started becoming the mainstream, and they just had to go with that scene. That's what we wanted, so.
Yeah, and The Rock was completely away from rap. That was John Cena.
Yeah. Well, no, but but just with the whole era, I understand where you're coming from, because my mom, even though my mom let me watch wrestling, like if I would go to my auntie's house, there was no wrestling allowed in the house.
Okay.
Because she liked wrestling too, but it was so different and so edgier than
more adult
themed that it was like you had to be a teenager, or it was some things that you just didn't want to have to explain, and they were always borderline on that subject.
Oh, like,
giving birth to hands and
you know what I'm saying? So
they definitely. I mean, that was their way of combating WCW. If anybody doesn't know, during the Monday Night War era, I mean, Eric Bischoff has even gone on record and said, that he would have loved to have had The Rock in WCW. He's like, no denying it. The guy just oozes charisma. I mean,
he still wouldn't have used him, right?
Instead, they had Booker T try and imitate him.
Yeah, he still wouldn't have used him.
Yeah, you're right. They would not.
He would have blew it.
Right, exactly.
He would have blew it because he blew it with Bret Hart. He would have.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. All right. So my number one, getting back to a little bit of old school, is
my wrestlers considered old school now too.
Well, that's true. Old school.
There you go. Thank you. No.
And that is a guy that actually was wrestling up until quite a few years ago, and that is Abdullah the Butcher.
Nice.
Wow.
Big Abby. The Heat Machine.
Yeah. Nice.
For what the guy did, I mean, a lot of people say he just ripped off the Sheik's gimmick, and I mean, I could see why people think that, but that was another guy, kind of like Kamala when we were growing up. I mean, everybody knew those guys' names, whether they saw him on TV, and he was another guy that really wasn't on TV all the time. I mean, he wasn't signed by NWA. I mean, he would show up there.
He's an attraction.
But he wasn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he was always, everywhere that he went, he always got used on the top. And like you said, always used as an attraction. Had maybe one of the longest running feuds ever with Bruiser Brody. Drew money like everywhere with him. And then huge in Japan as well. Infamously part of the WCW match where he ended up getting electrocuted in the cage match in the electric chair.
That against Cactus Jack?
It was like a bunch of them. It was like a bunch. I think Razor Ramon was in, or whatever his name was, Diamond Stud. I think it was just a bunch of guys that didn't really have storylines going on. They just threw him in that cage thing. And then at a Halloween Havoc, that was how you had to win the match, and he's the one that took it.
Wow.
But
Sounds like something he would do.
What about his stuff in international wrestling?
Yeah, exactly.
Out of Montreal, Canada. We're fortunate to get that here in the northern United States, and for people old enough to remember it.
yeah,
Good stuff.
and I'm not sure. I would have to look into it, but he ended up being their world champion. And a lot of guys, most of the places that he wrestled at, they didn't use him that way. They just like Ray said, he was more of an attraction.
Yeah,
And he
comes
didn't really,
in,
and he
makes
didn't
the money, and
right, and he didn't need a belt.
No.
But yeah, Brito, who was the promoter of that league, had such faith in Abdullah. He put the belt on him for quite a while too. And he turned him babyface. I mean, I know he went back and forth throughout his career, but that was probably the biggest babyface run that he had.
wow,
Yeah.
that's wow.
Well, because he turned baby in Puerto Rico as well,
Right.
for a spell there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
But someone like him probably works better as a heel. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Abdullah's got to be a heel.
Yeah. Well, with a name like the Butcher, you can't be nice butchering people.
It's like a
but-
legitimate
Right.
monster.
Right. All right, Brace, who is your number 2?
My number 2 is the Iceman, King Parsons.
Right.
Debuted in 1979. I like it.
Because he is also my number 5.
All right. Awesome. Trained by Nick Kozak, debuted in Houston, retired in 2001. Wrestled virtually everywhere there is to wrestle in North America.
Okay.
I mean, the guy started in Houston, went to Portland, Mid-South, that's the McGurk, and then Mid-South Watts, everywhere. Rocky Mountain Wrestling,
Wild
Jim
West.
Crockett Promotions, Wild West, World Class.
Yep.
Guy had held tons of regional titles, and what really got me for Iceman Parsons, he was like one of the first that I noticed, because I watched him. I saw him before I became a big fan, but he had that fire, like the comeback.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys like him and Tito Santana and Jimmy Snuka, the old school Southern fire. You're getting beat up and you just spaz out and make your comeback, hitting them with the punches and the drop kicks and whatnot. That guy was great.
Nice.
You familiar with him at all?
No.
Here's a little trivia for you.
Okay.
Rudy Poo,
Really?
one of the Rocks thing.
Uh-huh.
He took that from Iceman King Parsons.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, good one. That is
Yeah.
a good one.
Now Iceman, I want to say he was another one that I probably had a magazine first that did an article about him before I actually saw him.
Oh yeah. Well,
And-
that's the case in our time. Like a lot of it.
Yeah.
You would read about the guys for 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden you'd see them.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that I did not see him wrestle until he was in UWF.
Okay.
And I might have seen him in the tail end of his world class run, but I'm not
Probably.
I'm not positive. But I know that when they started showing the Legends of World Class, which was like older world class, that guy was having the best matches on the card. I mean, he was a upper mid carder, but no doubt about it, he was having the best match of the night. I mean, the whole he was the one that was involved with the whole Freebird
Freebirds and
hair
the
removal cream removed
Hair versus hair.
Buddy Roberts' hair with that. Creator of the Rumper Stumper or the Butt Butt or the Bee Sting or the Ass Bump, whatever you want to call it. He was the first guy to do that.
He used to
As
come
far as
into
my-
We Are Family.
as far as I know. Yeah, a huge star.
Yeah.
Never understood why the other guys never picked him up. I think he might have. I looked him up in recent years, and I think he did do a couple shows in WCW, non-televised shows.
Yeah, sure.
But I thought for sure that guy would have got picked up by WWF or NWA.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Could be. I mean, he
in
didn't
those
have to-
days, like, I
They
don't
were
need to
loyal.
go to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can stay and make, a couple $100,000 back in that time just working in the South or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I leave.
that's true. That's true. I mean, a lot of the travel schedule for
But
those
he
guys.
did travel everywhere.
he
He
would've
just
gone-
never.
But if he would have gone to WWF, that
Yeah.
travel schedule was brutal on those
Oh.
guys back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So that could have been a factor too. But all right, Q, who is your number 2
Bring it on
favorite
back to the
wrestler of all
90s.
time?
Bring it on back to the 90s.
05, is that the year you graduated?
Yeah, no, 9th grade actually. Second favorite wrestler of African American wrestler of all time, D'Lo Brown.
Nice.
D'Lo Brown.
D'Lo Brown is actually my number 4.
He almost made my list.
Really?
I got him written down. He's floating there in the outside. Yeah.
Yeah, D'Lo Brown was that guy that I was telling Mad Dog earlier. Before I understood how wrestling worked behind the scenes, it was always, how come he don't have the belt?
Yeah.
Like, he was the one, like, one of the ones that I just wanted to get the belt one time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
The world title?
Yeah, like the world
okay.
title. Like, I want him to have the world title one time. Like, he got the European but I wanted him to have that world title. And I just never understood until you get older, like, oh, okay, maybe his character couldn't carry the belt, or he just wasn't able to carry the belt, you know.
Or maybe he didn't need it.
Maybe he didn't need it. But he was the head nod, the coming out, and then with the nation domination.
And his frog splash was awesome.
His frog splash was amazing. And then the power bomb in the corner, and he does all this, and the leg drop, and the D'Lo Brown was the guy that when Shotgun and Metal, like Metal used to come on Friday and Shotgun would come on Saturday nights, like he was the one I looked forward to seeing. So I knew he was gonna be on there.
Yeah.
I knew he was gonna be on there.
Right.
But like he was the one I looked forward to seeing come out every week, him and the Godfather. But that's later on down the list.
Yeah, that's a quality selection. That guy, that guy could work, from a smart wrestling fan standpoint, but he had a load of charisma.
Yeah.
You know? He could have really.
He could have went places,
and he could wrestle anywhere on the card too.
Yeah.
He could have a match that would be like semi-main event. He even worked like some of the mains on Raw, didn't he?
Yeah, and he worked in TNA a lot. And towards the end, right. But I felt like if they would have changed it, he's a lot of the people on my list are people that's like, okay, if they would have just had a chance, I think they could, like, if you would have changed his character, I think he could have adjusted and he could have been one of your guys.
But he really didn't stick around long enough.
Well, after the Nation, like we were talking earlier, after the Nation, everybody just kind of went their separate ways.
Yeah.
And I think WWF picked and chose who they wanted to push and who they wanted to focus on. And I think he was just one of the ones where they just felt like they couldn't get nothing out of him.
Maybe if The Rock wasn't there, he would have got a bigger push.
Well, it's hard to, bypass The Rock.
It is. I mean, because that guy took so much capital from
a lot of people.
I will say this.
Everybody.
I was already such a fan of D'Lo when they originally were cutting, when they were firing the guys from the original Nation of Domination.
Yeah.
I remember like hoping that D'Lo was not going to get fired. I don't know if you remember that. Like,
okay.
He got spared.
Yeah.
And like the look on his face was the whole time, like he thought he was going to get axed too, and then he ended up making the cut.
Okay.
So,
I remember.
But he's another guy that, as far as I'm concerned, in that era, even though he was mid-card, upper mid-card, I think he was having the best matches on Raw.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but back when we were doing our radio show, The Pile Driver, I touted that all the time.
Yeah, you did.
There.
Yeah.
And I would say in that era, the Attitude Era, he was probably my top favorite, at least for a while in there. What hurt him, unfortunately, though, I mean, he was still around for a while, and they put him in a tag team with Tiger Ali Singh's kid. Yep. And
he was in the Lowdown with
what were they called?
They were called the Lowdown. The tag team name was the Lowdown, and it was him and Chaz.
Was it Chaz?
Chaz. It was one of the Thrashers. One of the Mosher.
One of the headbangers.
One of the headbangers. It was Mosher Thrasher. I think it was Mosh.
Yeah, they weren't around that long, were they?
They were. It was like 2000, 2001, because it was right when SmackDown had the fist for the stage. I remember, and they were called the Lowdown.
Then what? Okay, then I'm. Well, wasn't he a tag team with Tiger Ali Singh?
I do remember that.
And that's who he was. That's when he had the tag team match with Draz, and he.
That was before that.
Okay.
That was before Chaz. The Lowdown was the one he had right before he left WWF the first time.
I thought that. Okay. I'll have to check into it, but either way, that's kind of what ended his career in WWE.
Yeah.
The injury to Draz. Not that he got blamed for it by anybody, but they just...
Because Draz doesn't even blame him for it.
No. I think he blamed himself mostly.
Yeah.
And they were saying he just, after that happened, he just
Wasn't the same
Wasn't the
person.
same.
He wasn't,
Right.
yeah, because I think I just read it somewhere because I was looking him up, but I just read it somewhere that he said after that accident he changed his whole ring style
yeah,
because he
Oh,
didn't
that
want
is
it to
probably
happen
like
again.
safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
trying to be too safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and he changed his whole style, and I think, like you said, that might have been what messed him up.
D'Lo Brown, former MMA fighter.
Really?
Yeah, and he had some MMA matches, legit, but most of them were worked.
Elo
Okay.
did too.
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Nice. I
Yeah,
didn't know
he would have staged MMA matches against like Dan Severn and
Oh,
whoever
okay.
else.
All right.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
All right. We'll get into my number 2, which is another Brown and another guy that was into shoot fighting before the MMA era. And that is none other than Alan Coge, better known as Bad News Brown.
Nice.
Nice.
When now I don't remember him. He was in International. I'm sure I had seen him at some point.
Yeah.
But I didn't really remember him until he showed up in WWF. And, I liked his character. I liked what they were doing with him. He kind of shot up to the top, but then he kind of, after that, he just kind of, I mean, even though they kind of kept him at the top and he was like a top heel, it seemed like he just kind of, he never really won any of the feuds that they like put him in.
Yeah, well, he's a bad guy too. I mean, that's kind of their, job there, especially at that time.
Yeah, but I don't know. They could have at least let him.
Oh yeah, they could have done it.
Win something.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it didn't really matter because he was involved in the feuds. I mean, they did kind of use him to springboard Bret Hart's singles career because at the one WrestleMania there was the Battle Royal where Bret was still part of the tag team with Anvil, and they were both heels, and they both were the last 2 guys in there, so they were gonna split it and be like co-winners. And then Bad News ended up giving them what they called the Ghetto Blaster, which was the back the head kick.
Yinsaguri.
Yeah, the Enziguri
Yeah.
that sent Bret over the top or whatever and made him lose it. And then so that was kind of what springboarded Bret Hart's singles career. So he did get some shots at Hogan for the belt at one point. I don't remember him doing much after he left WWF. Did he go back to Japan? Or
I don't know.
or what?
I think he might have.
or was he just done after
I think he finished after that because he got started a little late too. He had he was a judo player and
Yeah.
bronze medal in the '76 Summer Olympics. So
Nice.
yeah, he was about as legit you can get, and he had that vibe about him that you just knew, even watching on television without knowing he was in judo. He just kind of had that vibe for being a badass,
Right.
and he was too.
Are you familiar much with
I've
Bad News
heard
Brown?
the name.
Okay.
Heard the name. Haven't seen any of the matches.
Oh man,
But
Yeah, look
I'm
on
gonna
YouTube.
go back and check him out because he sounds like a badass.
Just one story that sticks out in my head about him. He was wrestling in a match against Andre the Giant down in Mexico, and Andre apparently had the stomach flu or something, and did a move to him, and accidentally pooped his trunks and got all over Bad News. So he left. He leaves the ring, goes immediately to the shower, didn't even take his boots or anything off. But I mean, he really held no ill will towards him because he was just like, I felt bad for the guy because he was sick,
Well, ironically
And that's
enough, with Andre, he challenged Andre to the fight. He's one of the few brave souls that got
wrestle
up in
Andre,
Andre's face.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
They did have some heat at one point,
Yeah.
but I think that got quashed. But
Yeah.
Yeah, who wants to have Andre?
right,
Yeah, no kidding.
exactly. All right, Brace, who is your number 3?
My number 3 is Abdullah the Butcher. I know you mentioned him before. And we ran him down. Debuted in 19. I'll just go through a couple notes that I took for Abdullah. Debuted in 1958 in Montreal. He was found by Jack Britton. You mentioned Gino Brito earlier and Abdullah the Butcher. There's kind of a long-going history there. Jack Britton is Gino Brito's dad.
Yeah.
Who discovered Abdullah the Butcher and got him in training. And I wrote the note down. he got his gimmick. He had a couple different names before he went to Abdullah the Butcher, and somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s, he changed it to Abdullah the Butcher in a feud with Gino Brito Sr. in Montreal, and and they had a big cage match and everything, kind of notorious in that area.
Nice.
And one other note, does anybody know of any wrestler who may have had more managers than Abdullah the Butcher?
No.
Probably not.
Because
not.
that guy went from territory to territory, and he never spoke.
Right.
And he always had to have the mouthpiece. And
I'm about to say that was part of his gimmick, right?
Yeah.
That he never spoke.
absolutely. Because I was trying to think of somebody who might have had more,
Yeah.
and I couldn't.
Yeah, you're probably spot on there because I mean, even in international, it'd be like, who's this guy? Kind of like Memphis
Yeah.
a little bit, like some guy that you'd never seen before would show up as Abdullah's
Reggie
manager.
Define.
Right, exactly.
All right, that was my number 3.
All right, who's yours? Keith?
My number 3 ran a train, so
Would that be a whole train?
that would be a whole train. Yes, Godfather.
The
is
whole train?
The
or-
whole.
oh,
no,
the
no,
whole
the
train.
whole
Okay,
train.
I thought you said whole.
No, the whole.
Like the entire train.
Well, he ran
He ran both.
a whole train of holes. No.
Right.
The Godfather is my number 3. It was the women. I can't even lie. It
how
was
can
the
you
girls.
not
It was the
enjoy
girls. Yeah, how can you
The
not?
Godfather?
Yeah. Can you imagine? But it was in that era. Can you imagine getting in trouble running around the house talking about it's time once again to come aboard the whole
Yeah.
train?
Right.
So, but he was another one I look forward to the whole train every night.
Oh yeah.
Every week I wanted to see the whole train. But
You wanted to see the hose too.
I wanted to see the hoes too. But no, he was still a good talent in the ring. Won the Intercontinental title. I hated him as the good father, but it just showed how I guess a little versatile that he was because
He definitely
yeah.
definitely was versatile because
Yeah.
you got to throw in there. Well, he started off in I want to say in Texas as the Soul Taker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then he was Papa,
Papa
Shango.
Yeah.
Then he was Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine too.
So he was very versatile. I think again, there's another one that WWF just dropped the ball on.
I think he
just-
wound up getting injuries and whatnot. He was a little bit older. I
Well,
think he got a later start. If I remember
yeah.
right.
Well, he was with the Nation, but he was like you said, he was Kama before that. I mean, Kama before that and all those. But by the time I seen him, he won the Intercontinental title. He won the tag team titles with Bull Buchanan with Right to Censor.
Right.
I mean, I guess he'll go down with Right to. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame, so you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
say
Yeah.
he's not memorable.
There's a guy probably. I mean, he had the whole train and everything else. He didn't need a belt. Before that, like with the gimmicks that he had, he was just so over the top with them.
Yeah, but it worked in that era. Can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
you
definitely.
you can't do that in the 80s.
Wasn't it?
You can't even. You barely can do it now. He only
That'd be
makes.
funny. I was about laughing
Right.
because I could just picture him coming out now with the whole train. And
Yeah, now he comes out with it's like 3 women, and it's like they're not the whole train, they're just the train.
Yeah.
And
Right,
it's like,
right.
it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no, we know what you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can you imagine that now with
Yeah. So
that would not fly
No.
in this era.
no, not in this era. But that's my number 3. Him and D-Lo were my guys because he spent a lot of time on Metal and Shotgun too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But those were my guys, and I really enjoyed couldn't wait to see them, but just love the whole thing, the whole train, and then hit you with the pimp drop, which is now the attitude adjustment, which people don't realize
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
every
true.
every time I see him do that, I say, "There ain't nothing but the pimp drop, just the pimp drop."
Did they
but-
change that before the 5-knuckle shuffle or after? When Cena
Well,
changed it?
he was gone before.
He was
before
gone.
that
with-
happened,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
'Cause I don't
but-
even think he would
That
have
was
used
more
it
like a
if-
commentary.
Yeah, I don't
How
think he
they
would have.
changed everything.
Oh yeah,
Oh right.
They had
yeah.
to get out of that era.
yeah, because it was the 5-knuckle shove, the FU. Yep, and then they
Yeah.
changed it to the attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I don't think he probably would have used it if Godfather was still there, because a lot of people don't do that when they use other people's finishes. They're still wrestling, right?
Yeah, they're
Nah,
not supposed
for
to.
the most
Not
part.
supposed to.
No, not for the most part.
Yeah,
no.
that's why Kurt Angle had such a big beef with Randy Orton, because he took the Angle Slam for a while he was still in TNA.
Oh, Orton did?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know they had
that.
heat, but I
Not
kinda
heat,
remember
but
that.
they asked him about it. they asked how did he feel about Randy Orton using the ankle slam and them calling it a backbreaker.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, well, he didn't even call and ask. Like, I even though Shamrock was retired, I still called, asked, could I use the ankle lock?
Right. Yeah,
got permission.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a big
and I
thing.
waited until after he retired.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle was still in, even though TNA wasn't on the scale that WWF was, he was still in TNA.
He
dropping
broke,
people
he
with
broke
the ankle
protocol.
slam.
Yeah.
He broke protocol.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is a big thing. You know, kind of getting permission to use somebody's move that they're kind of synonymous with.
Yeah.
But so going back to him and his real name's Charles Wright.
Right. Yeah.
I did think about him,
Okay.
but I would have put him in as the Papa Shango era because at first I did not like that character, but he did such a good job of it. I actually ended up liking that character quite a bit.
Yeah.
And actually that character I believe just showed back up in one of the Matt Hardy skits.
Okay.
One of those. I'm pretty sure that he showed up as Papa Shango. I know
that
he
would
was
make
there.
sense.
And,
That would make sense.
yeah.
Little known fact, Lita was a hoe.
Oh, and so was Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria was a hoe.
Oh, really?
too.
Both of them?
Yeah. Yep.
That's
They were
hilarious.
hoes. And that's how they got their start. They were hoes.
Yep.
All right, Mad Dog.
My number 3 is, and then going back to our favorites of the 80s, who was in my top 10, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas.
Nice one. Nice one.
He didn't make my top 10,
another-
but he's up there.
He's in my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that, I mean, when I started watching it, he was just coming off the era where he was tag team champions with Rocky Johnson. I didn't see that era. It was like right after that. So they were no longer a tag team. They did not get along in real life at all. So Rocky was gone, I think, at that point. So, you know, I would see Tony normally doing like you know, prelim matches on Primetime Wrestling or whatever. But even doing those, I really liked him, you know. And so he wasn't around too much longer after that in the WWF. I think he went to World Class after that. Got a big push in there, and they started calling him. He wore like a full Superman suit, and they called him the Black Superman, Tony Atlas.
Right.
Won their belt. Then later went back to WCW and even got a push, but that might have been. See, I don't remember if that was before WWF brought him back as Saba Simba, which. You know,
we don't talk about that.
No, I mean, even I felt really bad for him at that point. I mean, he you know, I've seen interviews with him and he doesn't hold a grudge, but you know, I remember even thinking, what are they thinking? You know, I mean, I didn't really like the era of the really over the top gimmicks anyway.
Right.
And then when they brought him back as that, you know, I mean, they tried to sell it as him just going back to his roots or whatever, but. Give me a break. You know,
nobody
was
buying
just,
that.
Right, exactly.
Nobody buying that. And I'm actually familiar with Tony Atlas, like you said, with Rocky Johnson and winning the tag team titles. And I didn't know they didn't get along in real life. That's an interesting fact. I did not know that.
No, they did not.
Guess all great teams don't have to get along. You just got to work together, huh?
No. I mean, that's more common than a lot of people think.
Wow.
Or guys would just not travel together and just show up and go out there to the ring and do their thing and.
Oh, they're separate ways.
Atlas and Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to take a bio break. I'm not timing my coffee consumption right.
Oh, no. I just didn't know they didn't get along. But
those
I
guys
do.
Were cool.
Yeah, they were, you know, like I said, I know about those guys and just didn't see a lot of them.
Yeah.
But YouTube is a beautiful thing. So you get to see a couple of matches, the ones that survived the time and people put on there. But respect for a lot of those, and he's on my honorable mentions, Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson. So
nice.
Yeah. The thing about Tony is, and what he has said himself is that he feels that they gave him too much too soon.
Okay.
Because he was how old would you say? I mean, he was a younger kid.
Jeez,
You know, in his probably early 20s, and got the huge push in
Right.
NWA, right?
Yeah.
Before you went to WWF.
Yeah, he was. I watched the interview with him, and he's like, man, it was like 1977, and he was making like $75,000 a year starting.
Wow.
Like in today's,
Yeah, but back then that's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot for a wrestler nowadays. Unless you're working in the
Yeah.
WWE, you're probably not making that,
Right.
or you are,
Well,
but you're working your
making-
butt off.
Yeah,
working,
you're making more than
Right.
Yeah,
So
Wow.
Yeah. that guy was a monster.
Yeah, but he was well worth it. Well
Oh,
worth
yeah.
it. Well worth it.
Yeah. All right, Brace Beemer, who's your number 4?
Number 4 is Coco Coco Beware. And admittedly,
Yes,
a lot
yes.
of this, I liked him, when he was in the WWF. One of those guys that would always have like a great match, kind of. There's so many guys like that. They're just like good workers that, never got the top spot. Your Dennis Condrey's, everybody, Bobby Eaton's,
Right.
except in tag team. But
Right.
Coco Ware, and a lot of that, I went back and I saw a lot of what he did in Memphis before the WWF. Debuted in 1978, retired in 1995. There's a couple interviews of him out there, recent ones, and they're pretty good. You could probably just go find them on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, and his teams with Bobby Eaton, and then with a guy called Norvell Austin as the PYT Express. Great. That
Yep.
team with him and Eaton are as good as any team I've ever seen, just about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that, like you were saying earlier, I don't think he needed the belt to
Didn't.
stand
Yeah.
out,
No.
and he just did. Because like I said, even I know who Coco Beware is.
Oh, yeah, he had the
Great.
Bird.
Yeah, the
later
Bird.
on, tag team with Owen Hart.
Yeah.
And he was always there as a WWE Hall of Famer,
Yeah.
And he was kind of one of those guys where you're like, why the heck is he in the WWE Hall of Fame when you got all these other guys out there?
Yeah.
But man, he was a character and a half.
Yeah,
Great.
and in a industry where being able to sell your character and as well as on the mic and in the ring, one of the best to do.
He was an
So,
athlete and a half too,
Yeah.
man. Had a nice athletic background. The guy could do anything in the ring.
Yeah.
He could punch. His drop kick was one of the best ever in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. He did not make my list, but yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I remember like really, like I had just seen like the very tail end of his UWF career, and then WWF picked him up, made him into the Birdman, and he was just one of those guys that in that era was never meant to rise above mid-card status.
Yeah.
Really.
One of thousands. They got to
but-
do their job, you know?
Yeah, but still hugely popular with the crowd. I mean, let's talk about the Pile Driver album that they put
Oh,
out.
yeah.
I mean, he was like the main guy,
He
who
sang the
had the
song.
main song
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
And then he started coming out to that song instead of the Bird when they started going to all their own songs. But yeah, that was another guy that just had great matches. I was always rooting for him. But in that era, I mean, there was just guys that were just never going to get past a certain era
Right.
or a certain spot on the card, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that was his role, and he played it. He played it great.
You got to have the mid-carders, upper mid-cards. But
yeah.
Yeah.
another guy, he could, if he had to work a main event or a semi-main event, he could work
could.
that style. He could,
Yeah.
adjust as the storyline or whatever needs you to do.
hmm
Yeah, definitely.
And you need, like you said, you need those guys in the industry.
Oh yeah,
because-
that's what most of them are.
Yeah.
he's
So
he's a legit carpenter.
yeah,
Right.
He's that guy that you be like, Hogan needs somebody to fight. Let's
Sure.
just put him in with Coco.
Or somebody to get the guy over to get to Hogan.
to get to Hogan, we're gonna put him against
Yeah.
Coco.
Yep. Yep.
So
Exactly. All right, Q. Who's your number 4?
my number 4 is actually a guy just like Coco. I think he was underutilized too until very recently. But I think just gave it to him out of pity. Not pity, but well, not pity, but I think because I think they felt like his character, they failed with his character, so they made it up to him by giving him the belt, and that's Mark Henry.
Okay.
I don't think they really. I don't think they do that because they feel sorry for somebody. Like they
I
put
don't know.
because
Well,
with
look at our truth. Our truth.
Mark
was,
Henry, look how much time they put into that guy.
Yeah, but okay.
I'm agreeing with him on your spot, by the way.
Okay, Hall of Fame Mark Henry. You could have had Hall of Fame Mark Henry. Like, Mark Henry he didn't become the world's strongest man.
Right.
When you signed him, he was the world's strongest man. Like, you could have played that up from the beginning.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go through the stages that
they
you
did
to me.
Because he's got a belt now. Is that what's going on?
Well, no,
he's retired.
He retired now, but before he went out, they gave him the world title.
Oh, okay.
And that was a great swerve, by the way, because he came out and was crying, real tears, talking about how he was going to retire. And then it ended up being a big swerve, and he ended up, what was it, against Cena?
Well, that was the second one. That was the second challenge for the title. The first one was a report. One of the backstage guys had quoted that he had been in the industry for 16 years and never won the world title.
Yeah.
And so the rumor, I remember hearing it somewhere, an interview with him. I can't find the interview anymore, but I remember hearing this interview. They asked him about how did that character, the transition of him being this Hall of Fame Mark Henry, come out. Mm-hmm. It was a prank. I guess he was supposed to be in a dark match, like after Raw or whatever, and they played somebody's music and nobody came out.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and then they played somebody else's music and nobody came out.
I haven't heard this.
And they played somebody else's music and nobody came out. So now he's in the middle of the ring looking like a fool. So he was pissed.
Yeah, it was like a big rib on him.
Yeah, like a big rib. So
he
went.
Vince and the story.
Vince was in
Vince
on
is
it.
the one that did it.
Yeah. So he goes back in the back and starts like Mark Henry is literally the world star. He's ripping stuff off the walls. He's throwing things, breaking things, and Vince is like, everybody's like, holy shit, like, you just pissed this dude off and nobody back here can stop him.
Yeah.
Right.
So Vince went to him, I guess the next day or a few days later and was like, can you be that Mark every night? And he was like, I don't want to be that Mark every night, because he didn't want to have that stigma of the big angry black man.
Yeah.
So so I guess I kind of put it on him a little bit too, because he was always trying to be fun-loving because he didn't want that stigma. But Vince was like, no, I want that mark every night.
That's the money mark.
Yeah, that's the money mark. And Mark was like, okay, I'll do it. And so they had to the guy come out and say, you have never won the title. You've been here 16 years. You've never won the world championship. And he went crazy.
Okay.
And that's when he beat Orton, and he had that great run with the Big Show. And that's when he started doing the Hall of Fame mark.
Okay.
But that was all by him played a prank on him. And
awesome.
Vince wanted that mark. Vince like, can you give me that mark? And I guarantee you'll have a belt.
Yeah, they tried for years to get the guy over. You know,
I mean, I would say he was kind of over. I mean, even the sexual chocolate was over.
Yeah, it was over,
but it wasn't taken serious.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, how could you take it serious? And it wasn't meant to be taken serious.
No.
Now he won the WWE's version of the ECW title. Also, was that before or after he had the world title?
That was before.
Okay,
so he had.
That's when I really started to like him.
Yeah,
when he had that, I thought he did a great job as their version of the ECW champion. As well.
Well, he was supposed to break the Undertaker streak.
Was he?
Yeah, I just read this a few days ago. Vince wanted. They were talking about people to break the Undertaker streak.
Like Vince recently, or
this is remember when he fought Undertaker at WrestleMania?
Oh,
was it WrestleMania 22?
That was a while.
I don't remember, but
I think it was like WrestleMania 20. Yeah, it was WrestleMania 20. It was either 22. I know it wasn't 23 because that's when he fought Batista. Had to be. It was either 22 or 21. 21 was Orton, I think. 22. It had to be 22. So
was that a regular match or was that a casket match?
Casket match. That was the casket match. Okay, yeah, that was the casket match because Undertaker had the promo where he built the extra wide casket.
That's right. Okay,
with Paul Bearer.
I remember that now.
So because Paul Bearer was like, we got this extra wide casket just for you. So yeah, but Vince was like, they was like, well, who can break the Undertaker streak? And Vince was like, well, how about that big bastard Mark Henry? And everybody, Bruce Pritchard, and everybody was like, okay. And they took it to Taker, and Taker was like, okay. And everybody was cool because they figured Few days later, Vince was gonna come back and say never mind.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. A few days later, it was like Vince was like, never mind.
Yeah.
Because I guess they were trying to get him over, but just go back and watch that Hall of Pain mark. Just watch that run from that, like his last big run, and then like he said, he came out with that jacket and was retiring. He had everybody, because I was watching the Raw when it happened.
Yeah, I was too.
Everybody.
I might not have been watching when he retired.
Yeah,
Well,
probably not. I mean,
but he had everybody going.
Yeah.
He had the crowd was cheering sexual chocolate, and because he didn't expect the reaction from the crowd that he got.
Yeah,
Maybe he could have beat the Undertaker.
This has to be one of the greatest swerves ever in wrestling. Honestly,
Ever.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
look it up on YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just watching it before I got here. He wasn't expecting that reaction, and the crowd literally was genuinely giving it to him.
Upset about it.
They were upset about it. And then John Cena was in the ring. He raised his hand up, and how John Cena is with the ultimate respect.
Yeah.
And he went to hug him, picked him up, World's Strongest Slam,
Nice.
and was like, "I still got a lot left." And that started their little feud. But that swerve was probably
seriously, that's got to be one of the
didn't see it
greatest
coming.
in wrestling, and he did such a fantastic acting job on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no. I mean, it seemed totally sincere.
Yeah.
It really did.
That's right after he lost to the Big Show, the rumors had came out that he was ready to call it quits. So everybody really genuinely thought, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
He's done. Because he had wanted to retire anyway. And then you know how persuasive the WWE is.
Money talks.
Money talks. He's like, hey, look, we can get some more money out of you.
Yeah.
So they probably paid him a little bit more. Told him you didn't have to work as many shows. Just do this last run, and then we'll put you on a lighter schedule. That's probably what happened.
Imagine if he could have found that 5 years into the business instead of 16 years in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he's 2-time world champion.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's had some runs where I thought, when him and MVP were tag team, I thought they should have won the tag team titles.
See, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
either
off the top of my head.
MVP
unfortunately, one match that sticks out in my head, and another guy that I was considering putting on my list because I really enjoyed his work throughout the years, but because they had, along with Mark Henry, and I'm talking about, he would have been Viscera at the time, maybe. They had one of the worst matches ever on Raw.
Mabel.
But I mean, it was Mark Henry early on in his career.
Okay.
That match totally sticks out in my head. So
if you watch him as Big Daddy V, you wouldn't be disappointed.
I really enjoyed it. I liked him as that character probably the best.
That was his best.
But I mean, even as Mabel, I liked him. I mean,
I didn't like Mabel.
I didn't like the character, but for a big man, I saw that he had the talent.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's got the knock that he was a little bit too unsafe.
Yeah.
In the ring. So. I mean, especially the deal because he did the leg drop on Undertaker's face.
Yeah.
Making him have to wear that mask. I mean, that
once you do that, you're
right.
Done. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, even Kevin Nash I think Kevin Nash said he made a mistake and got Mabel in trouble because he went back in the back and was like, "Look, somebody's got to train this dude."
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "What?" He was like, "He's gonna hurt somebody if you don't show him how to do this stuff right."
Yeah.
And he was like, after that, he kind of started, and then I guess he hurt Taker after that. But he was like, he told them that before he hurt Taker.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And nobody listened.
Okay.
But that was kind of because he was supposed to be the next guy. That's why he won King. When King of the Ring. That's when King of the Ring meant something.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why he won. He was supposed to be the guy, but he was just unsafe. So nobody gave him. But after you hurt Taker, you can't hurt Taker.
Right. Yeah. And then he got put on the back burner for a long time. But yeah, I actually really liked his Big Daddy V run.
Oh my God. I thought he was going to win the belt. I thought he was going to win.
Yeah, no. I was actually disappointed that they didn't do more with him.
Yeah.
In that era. But all right. Actually, we already talked about my number 4, which was D'Lo Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brace, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is the Junkyard Dog. Debuted
Yes.
1977 in the Memphis territory under the name Sylvester Ritter. Guy worked Memphis, Nashville. That's the Goulas territory down there. Calgary, then the Mid-South, WWF, World Class in Dallas, and WCW. Picked up the name Junkyard Dog in 1980 in Memphis when he came from Calgary to Bill Watts in the Mid-South area.
Nice.
Junkyard Dog, exciting. I mean, that was like, I remember like when I was a kid and when he showed up in WWF, that may have been the first time I saw him because I don't think UWF was on TBS at the time. But man, that guy, it would just, Another One Bites the Dust came out, the place just went nuts. Mm-hmm. Everything I've watched in the past from like Mid-South is like that too. Just charisma. And the guy he gets a knock for not being a good worker. That guy could sell his ass off. Mm-hmm. He was one of the best sellers in the ring. Yeah. Even for a big guy. Like when he took punishment, that guy, his fingers were moving. He could sell. He had great punches. Awesome. I love me some Junkyard Dog.
Yeah. No, I'm totally agreement with you. He's one of the ones that I can say I've seen because I've gone back and watched a lot of those matches. Yeah. But I totally agree with you. Junkyard Dog is charisma personified.
Yeah. Passed away in a car crash, and it was, I think, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had actually, I believe he had like made an appearance on an ECW pay-per-view. Not wrestling, but I think they were going to try to get him into ECW and doing something right before that.
Yeah.
So he only made an honorable mention for me, which, I remember really liking him though. Like I remember the first house show that I went to, it was him versus Terry Funk. Okay. And I was rooting for Junkyard Dog at the time. Terry Funk would later go on to be one of my favorites of all time, but at that time I didn't really care about him. And then going back and watching his stuff in Mid-South and UWF, I mean, that guy was the biggest star Bill Watts probably ever had in the Mid-South UWF era. You should probably check out some matches from there with him versus Butch Reed.
Okay.
Those two had some great, brutal matches against each other. Other than that, unfortunately, I think we might have talked about this on a previous one, but unfortunately, I mean, he came into WWF, but never really did a whole lot. I mean, he's another guy that I guess you could say didn't need a belt, didn't need whatever, but he hadn't been there that long during WrestleMania 1, and he loses to Greg Valentine. Well, actually, I think he won by a reverse decision.
Yeah,
but lost. I want to say he lost. Not that it really matters in the grand scheme of things, but he lost. I want to say every WrestleMania match he was in. WrestleMania 2, it was him and Tito Santana against the Funk Brothers. They lost. Loses to Harley Race at WrestleMania 3, and then I think he was gone after that. Goes to WCW. Got a decent push in WCW. We saw him wrestle live a few times
at
in WCW at Kovo, right? So
still popular. Wasn't moving around as much, but people loved him.
Yeah. I mean, taking nothing away from him. I mean, definitely one of the most influential guys, as far as our topic goes. Hugely popular. But just
in wrestling in general, there may have been nobody as popular as Junkyard Dog within that Mid-South territory.
Yeah. Like, and I enjoyed watching him in the beginning, but he was just not anybody when I sat down and thought about it that was really that I could call my favorite for any length of time. Yeah. So that's the only reason he only made it as a honorable mention for me. But Q, so where are we at? Number 5?
Yes.
Who's your number 5?
Booker T, the five-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
And 23-time tag team champion.
Yeah, like ridiculous. But no, just going from the start as the tag team of Harlem Heat with his brother, going to his solo career, coming to WWE. I feel like he got punished for being in WCW his first couple of years. I think Vince did a lot of. I think Vince punished a lot of those WCW.
I don't know.
guys.
Yeah, I don't know. they have to build him to a different audience. You know, so a lot of times their guy will get a splash and then they'll pull him back.
I mean, I will say this: they did make him the number one guy
Yeah.
from WCW,
They did.
but you know, they really weren't going to put their WCW guys immediately over their guys that they had already created and established.
And I get that. I think with Booker T's talent, I think.
Oh, I see where you're coming from. He
Yeah,
was
I don't-
up here.
And then you bring him in, and now he's mid card.
Yeah.
I don't think was the right thing to do.
No, that whole invasion angle was a
they
total
dropped the
debacle.
ball.
And it's funny because when I was a kid, I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Like until you grow up and you realize like that shit sucked.
Yeah,
Right.
they
Like
could've done-
didn't suck, but it wasn't as good as it could have.
There's
been.
no heat.
That's why Austin had to go over to that side because they didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
'Cause
think they handled the whole. Looking back on it, they handled the whole thing wrong. You know what I'm saying?
they did.
And
they
handled the whole thing
definitely
wrong.
did.
You know, they had the opportunity to have Sting, and Sting's on the interview. Like this has been on YouTube. He's like, Booker T comes in the ring, and he looks at The Rock, and The Rock said, and he said, "I'm Booker T," and The Rock says, "Who?"
Right.
And
That
Sting's
killed
like,
him.
Yeah, that killed
That
it.
kind of killed him right there.
That
Yeah.
killed it right there because you're not acknowledging. Yes, we get it. We were rivals. I understand that. We tried to put you.
He
out of
even
business.
imitated
I
The
get
Rock
that.
for crying out loud.
Yeah, I get all that. But at the end of the day, this man put in work
Mhm.
in another company.
Yeah.
Yes, it was your rival. But if this was the 80s with all the territories, it wouldn't have mattered because he would have been here eventually anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can't punish this man because just my opinion. I still think he had a great career. He's still one
Oh,
of my
yeah,
favorite
tremendous
wrestlers.
career.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I hated that he had to become King Booker to win the world title, but he
Uh,
still sold the
I
role,
didn't think
which
that-
is
I
a
liked
credit.
it. I
Which-
liked what he did with the with
Which
the
is a
King.
credit. And anytime you can have a rivalry with Jerry Lawler, so I get to see the King wrestle, is fine with me. I hated that he had the heart attack for personal reasons because I'm glad that happened to him, but I felt like him and that Punk angle was gonna go places.
Yeah.
Just because if you know how to wrestle and you know how to do something with the business, you can do it regardless. But anyway, I digress. Booker T number 5.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my honorable mentions, and I was not a fan. Like I had seen him start off in Global Wrestling as a tag team with his brother,
Okay.
and I thought they were a little too green in WCW, and they got like a big push right off the bat. But I thought as far as in the ring, they were a little bit too green. I mean, they were, they looked fantastic
Right.
as far as physically,
Oh.
but as far as working in the ring, I wasn't a fan of them.
But that
I
was
was not-
WCW's problem anyway. They just
But
pushed
I-
a lot of people.
But I became a fan of his after I think Stevie Ray got injured or whatever. They broke up, and then he had the Best of 7 series in WCW for the U.S. title
Yeah.
with Chris Benoit.
Yeah, that was
that
good.
was a really good one.
And then I was like, man, this guy has a lot of talent that I hadn't really seen up until that point because he was a
In the
tag team.
right?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. And then he went on just to have a great career, and definitely one of the top guys.
He had more
ever
belts
in
than
this
Rock
business.
had catchweights.
And
Yeah.
went to TNA and did some good work too.
He did.
A lot of people forget that he went to TNA and did some good work.
Yeah, he did.
Runs his own
Wasn't he like the
promotion.
first Legends champion they
yeah.
had in there? And
Yeah,
He
Yeah,
runs
he
his
did.
own promotion in Houston now. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
his
he does
his
that,
little
too.
school. Yeah. So
Mad Dog.
yeah, my next one. We already talked about it. My next one is
Oh yeah, that's right.
Iceman King Parsons was my number 5.
okay.
So Brace, who is your number 6?
Number 6, former world heavyweight champion Ron Simmons.
He's okay. I know this
Right.
Oh, he was.
He's Farouk
He
to
turned
me.
out to be awesome, man. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, damn.
Debuted in 1986 down in Florida. Worked Florida, WCW, ECW, WWF. And one thing that's weird with Ron Simmons, I see that he debuted in 1986. It's like by that time, a lot of the territories were just going away. So some of these guys, like later on the list, and maybe like some on yours, Q, they only wrestled like maybe one other place before they're in WWF.
Yeah.
You know, or WWE, maybe two other places, or they wrestled in this one spot for a year and all of a sudden they're in WCW.
Right.
You know, Simmons was kind of, I still consider him like an old school mold, excuse me. So he worked from 1986 and retired in 2004. The first African American world heavyweight champion, and that was in 1992.
Yeah,
was it? Yeah, in WCW.
Yep, defeated Vader.
Yeah, I'm about to say defeated Vader.
Yeah, another former professional athlete. In '85, he played with Lex Luger in the USFL Bandits. Little nice. Trivia there.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Now and had an accomplished college football career. As retired, number 52 at Florida State University.
Now, one of the things that they used to always talk about when he first came into the NWA was as a nose tackle. He was and he won some award, one of the awards that normally they don't give to the nose tackle. I remember them talking about it all the time. I don't remember which.
I think
award
it was like a defensive award. I know in the Heisman he finished like 8th in the Heisman.
Okay. All right.
In the Heisman voting. So yeah, stud.
Yeah,
stud
definitely.
athlete.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it just like I just his work in the ring looks so real.
Yeah.
He's another guy that you look at and you just go, I kind of don't want to mess with that guy. In his tag
no
team,
way.
yeah, and I thought his tag team with Doom with
Butch Reed.
Butch Reed,
yeah,
who's also on my list, was awesome.
Oh, that was a
with
great
Teddy
tag team.
Long, the manager. Yeah, those guys were great.
Yep,
so Ron
definitely.
Simmons coming in at my number 6.
Ron Simmons is my number 10.
All right.
Nice.
He was Farouk to me.
Oh yeah, he did a great job in there too. I didn't even mention. All that stuff.
he was APA baby.
Yeah.
APA, Alkalize Protection Agency. You know, sitting there, chain smoking cigars with Bradshaw.
Yeah.
And guy that loved him with the nation. But yeah, you know, when he got over here, he was WWF gave him a little push, not a big push. He was number 1 contender for a while for the championship.
Yeah.
But great tag team, like I said, with Doom. Then he formed one with Bradshaw.
JBL.
JBL. Yeah. So
now he was supposed to be the quote leader of the original Nation of Domination.
Right.
They were kind of souring on him at that point, or
but I just don't think they felt like he could be
the leader.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I think, because remember when he was the first leader, that's when he was using the Nation to try to win the WWF title.
Yeah.
And I just think if you're gonna have a stable like that that's supporting the main eventer, which I don't think that WWF never really considered him a main eventer.
No, not yet.
That makes sense.
Now, did you see the era when he first entered there and he had that stupid silver helmet and he
Yes.
wore like the
it was the gladiator, right?
and he was they made him like a gladiator, and I think he was called Farouk Assad. At that point.
Yeah.
And then thank God they changed that. I mean, that lasted for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think that they wanted to give him a push as that character, but it just I'm sorry, but you can't get that over.
No.
So
No.
So luckily they changed that.
Same thing with the Nation of Domination. That kind of went as far as it could, and then they blew that thing up.
Well,
Think about everybody that left that. Like,
well, we were just talking about that earlier.
We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Because like I said, with DX going in, I think DX, the Nation was like their number 1 counter. Was their number 1 adversary.
But you can only take that so far. And you got The Rock sitting there. They had to take him out. Like all those guys were just they were good on their own too, you know.
Yeah, they were good. I mean, half the guys that's on my list were in the Nation. D-Lo, Godfather, Marky. My first 4 is the Nation.
Yeah, really.
And Ron Simmons is 10, so I got the whole Nation on my list.
Yeah, that whole time frame there.
Yeah, I mean you can't take that away from them. I mean there was so much talent. In that group.
Yeah.
You know, I mean you could even throw Ahmed in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
even though he wasn't in there a while, but Ahmed,
Yeah.
Ahmed was.
He looked real.
yeah. Well, yeah, because he was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Ron Simmons is my number 10, but
Yeah.
my number 6 was Awesome Kong.
Nice.
And she did a lot of great work.
Nice.
Her rivalry with Gail Kim in TNA, especially when TNA was doing the women's division a hell of a lot better than WWE.
Oh yeah.
Like TNA's women division, Knockouts division was what WWF's women division was. Like, and I just thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, Awesome Kong is my number 6.
Okay, Awesome Kong is actually my number. Oh, I didn't mention this. Ron Simmons is my number 9.
Okay.
Awesome Kong is my number 8. Totally agree
Nice.
with you.
Yeah.
I was blown away by, and I had heard about her before I saw her in TNA because I think she was having some matches in Japan.
Yep.
And they had so much faith in her and Gail Kim at the time.
Yeah.
They were the first females that I ever saw main event a show.
Yeah.
I mean, they main evented their television show quite a few times.
Yeah.
And blew away all the matches
That the men were having.
that the men were having.
And yeah, them two led the beautiful people, like, and they were the reason like ODB came after them and the beautiful people and Velvet Sky and all them, like, but
They had a lot of experience too.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably had more experience between them than most people on the roster.
yeah.
Yeah.
And another blown opportunity by WWF because they had Gail Kim and Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They had them at separate times, but then they brought them back and they were there together and you blew it again.
Right.
You blew
Well,
it again.
I think Karma was in for a big push, but then she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then and then she never really went back. I mean, she made another appearance, I think,
Yeah.
at the Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
at one of the Royal Rumbles. But they were upset with her because she lost the baby and she never told them.
Mm.
Well,
What would that
that's an
matter?
emotional.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's what she's saying, but they were upset about it.
I
she
can't.
never.
I can't blame her for not.
Well, okay. Here's the deal: they think that she faked it to get out. That is where they're coming from.
That
Whether-
sounds too
whether
like
that's
drama.
true or
That's
not.
too much. Yeah.
Well, I'm just
Sounds
saying
like Dave
that that's-
Meltzer's writing in the dirt sheets.
Yeah.
Well, I mean
yeah.
that could be, but
Wow,
that's
okay.
that's what I've seen about that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
But-
well,
but yeah,
Mhm.
so yeah. Okay, actually, you probably are not that familiar with Awesome Kong.
I've seen
Karma,
some of
are
her
you?
work. I mean,
Okay.
she's
yeah.
her stuff in some of the other groups, like even before that. But there again, that's somebody that's not just because she's a big monster woman, but
Right.
she just
She's just
she looks
good.
real.
Yeah. She
You know,
she
like her
does
gimmick.
job well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You
I
could
and
say,
I
yeah,
think,
that I could see her being that way.
Yeah.
and I
you know?
think she kind of ushered in the modern era of
Mhm.
female wrestling too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
WWF definitely played catch up
Yeah. To the
as
knockout
far as the
position.
women go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she did her job well too. I've seen enough
Oh, yeah,
of her to know that.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
yeah.
and Gail Kim.
Yeah.
All right, my number 6 was Kamala.
Nice.
So, Brace, who is your number 7?
Number 7, Norville Austin. And admittedly, I didn't see this guy when I was a kid, but I saw him, once they started to show a bunch of different other wrestling, like the Continental Wrestling on TV. Norville Austin debuted in the late 60s, retired in 1988. He pretty much worked in all the Southern promotions almost exclusively.
Okay.
Every once in a while, he'd get a shot up in like Jim Crockett or, going over to Texas. But he kind of stayed home in the southeastern United States and had phenomenal success in tag teams with, he was part of the Midnight Express before the Lane and Condrey and Eaton and whatever. I just
Yeah.
screwed that up. But before the Jim Cornette Midnight Express
Express.
versions. Also, he tag team with Coco Ware, the PYT.
PYTs. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's in Coco Ware's in my top 10 as well. Great worker, just would go out there. You'd look at the guy, especially when he got older, you're like, I don't know, man. But he would get the job done every single time. Had some great feuds with, who was he? I can't think of the guy's name. Adrian Street.
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff, man. Norville lost him on number 7.
All right.
Mine-
I'm not. I mean, I've seen a little bit of Norvell, not enough to really make one judgment.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
way or the other. But,
That's another guy I'm writing down to go check him out.
Yeah,
So
check-
I got a couple of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a
that-
good
that-
rap too. His interviews were good.
Yeah, definitely check out the tag team with him and
Okay.
Coco.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to do that.
Okay. Very informational.
Yeah.
All right, so who's your number 7?
Tazz. Survive if I let you. I felt like great run in ECW, the human suplex machine, very technical. I felt like got to WWF, another guy that they just wouldn't put the belt on.
Yeah,
Well,
he was a hell of a
you-
character.
Yeah, I mean, he hell of a character, hell of a worker. I don't know too much behind the scenes.
Did you see
about
him in ECW then?
Yeah, no, yeah. That's why I
okay, yeah.
like him.
Okay.
I felt like if he could have carried ECW, because he was the world champion there,
Yeah.
Right.
And I felt like WWE again dropped the ball. I mean, he had that feud with Jerry Lawler, which was
He came right in with a
Yeah.
feud with Kurt Angle,
Kurt
I
Angle.
believe,
Yeah.
because he
And-
choked him out.
and choked him out. Had the thing with Lawler, and then they didn't really do a whole lot with him after that.
No,
Well, I think he wound up getting hurt. Like he had a bunch of
Did he?
injuries on his neck. Yeah, that was one of the things that slowed
That
him
kept
down.
Okay.
And then he'd
Okay.
try, and then he'd have another, and it just wasn't working out. And then that's when the whole commentary. I mean, geez, the guy commentary was great.
his commentary was excellent.
I know.
Yeah. He
His
turned into
commentary
a
was
fantastic
excellent.
commentator.
Yeah,
But his style
Yeah.
of wrestling,
His
it
style-
was
just-
cool.
I liked him because he was like 5'7" and
Yeah.
5'8", and this was like when I really wanted to be a wrestler.
Mhm.
But it was like I could never because when you see the world champions, they're all 6'1" and 6'2" and stuff like that.
And I think that's another reason why WWE didn't give him
Yeah.
the push. I mean, they definitely were not going to push him the way that he got pushed in ECW.
No,
There's no way.
no, and that was another thing. But watching him in ECW was like, okay, I could be 5'7" and be the world champion.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Because at the time, ECW, even though it was the little puppy on the market, was the third biggest wrestling in the
Yeah.
world at the time.
That was
it
a
was
sad
WWF,
state of
WCW,
affairs.
and this ECW.
Yeah.
And a lot of people liked ECW because of the violence and the hardcore. A lot of people, towards the end, chose ECW over WCW, which made it the second biggest promotion. So
It just looked real. I mean,
it looked so real.
because that's what people missed.
yeah.
Make it look real.
And that was another thing. Like, I remember having arguments in school. You would say, "Well, WWF and WCW might not be real, but ECW, now that's some real shit right there." You know,
Right.
so like them other two might not be real, but I'm telling you, ECW is real.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fake what they doing in ECW. but like that was a huge thing. But Tazz for me was because it was like, I don't have to be 5'7" and jump off the top rope and be a high flyer. I can go in there and suplex somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And be a technical
Well, you
wrestler.
forgot he
Right.
was 5'7".
Yeah. That's what I'm
know?
saying, 5'7". I could be 5'7" because I'm 5'9". So, but at the time, it's like, I don't have to be 6'4" to win the world title. I could
Right.
be 5'7" and go in there and not have to jump off the top rope and be a high flyer and take risks.
It's called old school
Yeah.
wrestling and working.
Yeah, it's like I could go in there and suplex somebody and
Oh, yeah,
drop
definitely.
toe hold
Right.
and get respect and have respect.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, why Tazz is on my top 10. And that's when I wanted to be a wrestler. That was my inspiration. So that's,
Tazz was.
yeah, Tazz
Nice.
was. So,
All right, cool. He did not make my top 10, but we mentioned this before. His name is being thrown around right now as going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
deserved
Yeah,
it. Well
so-
deserved. Well
yeah.
deserved.
He
And
had
the
a
only
Hall of
person
Fame
to be,
career in just in commentating.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
and the only person to be the ECW champion while working for WWE.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that they
Yeah,
did
that
that
Yeah.
whole
thing.
fiasco with
That's right.
Mike
With
Awesome.
Mike Awesome.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good pick.
Yeah. All right. My number 7 is the guy that we mentioned already, and we're running low on time, so we're gonna have to speed it up a little bit. But that would be the natural Hacksaw Butch Reed,
Ah.
a guy that had a good singles career, and then had a probably a better tag team career in WCW as Doom, along with Ron Simmons, as we mentioned. Was the Natural in WWF for a while. Supposedly the story is that he was supposed to win the Intercontinental title from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but no showed the show, and that's how the Honky Tonk Man ended up winning.
Wow.
The Natural, he was sweet.
Yes, he naturally blew his chance, huh?
Yeah, he did.
And he happened to be my number 8 as well.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
One other thing real quick that I want to mention is, do you remember when he was in WCW, probably after he had left WWF, so it was like 89, I want to say, he was being managed by J.J. Dillon. And they were kind of hinting around that he was going to end up being a horseman.
Yeah.
It never happened, but,
wow.
they were hinting
I
around that
forgot
he
all
was going
about
to end
that.
up being a horseman. So
Yes.
I think that would have been cool if they would have. I mean, I think he could have fit them.
Which is another blown storyline, WCW Blue NWO versus the Horsemen. But
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Butch
my
Reed
God.
debuted in 1978, trained by a guy named Ronnie Etchison out of the Central States, and that's kind of where he started. Central States being Kansas City
Right.
and St. Joe, that whole area over there.
All right.
Pretty much wrestled everywhere. He's
Yep.
the man.
yeah, Doom. Once you say Doom, you pretty much
Oh,
cover
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that you say, like,
He's in the mold,
Yeah.
athlete, did some rodeo as well. So,
Yep.
Butch Reed used to be called Hacksaw Butch Reed when he came in. Hacksaw
Okay.
Bruce Reed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Nice.
that's right. All right. Brace Beemer, who's your number 8?
Well, that
Is
was
where we
Butch
are?
Reed.
Yours was okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Q. Who's your number 8 then?
my number is another ECW alum, and that's Jazz.
Oh, okay.
Female hardcore. I seen her in ECW, but she's involved in one of my favorite storylines to me that made Trish Stratus the wrestler she is today. She was like Trish's first like major big opponent when she first came, because she came to ECW after the invasion.
Okay.
She was one of them people that you was like, oh, why was she there in the invasion? She was one of the ones that came after the invasion. But Jazz, tough as nails, did some great work in the ring to me.
She was tough. She looked tough.
She looked tough. And it was funny because I was always upset because Jazz came in right as China left.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, because as a kid, you're like, where the hell is China? You're not understanding.
Yeah.
But it's like, if they could have just held on a little bit longer and tried to keep China and made her happy and blah, 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 blah. Can you imagine a China versus Jazz?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
tough.
because when they made China go to the women's division, there was literally no women that could beat China.
Yeah,
And
right.
they made
Yeah.
that a storyline
Oh, yeah.
with her and Lita. There
Yeah.
was no women that could beat China.
Yeah.
And we all knew that.
Yeah, because
and-
they had already, at that point, had they already had her wrestle the men?
Yeah, she had already won
Yeah.
the Intercontinental title. By this time, she had won the women's title. It was like,
Yeah.
none of the women gonna beat her. And she left, and they brought in Jazz. I felt like Jazz was brought in to replace China as the alpha female in the locker
Probably,
room.
well, they did that with Beth Phoenix later on.
Yeah, later
and-
on. They had
yeah.
that one powerhouse female,
Yeah.
and that was Jazz. And I felt like if you could have just had one China versus, like, that's one of my top 5 dream matches that I would have loved to have seen. China
Really?
versus Jazz.
Yeah, a lot of people probably would have liked to see that
I would
one.
have loved to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, you know what? That's somebody that I didn't even consider when I was making my list, but
Yeah.
I could definitely see your point there.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to speed this up a little bit.
Okay.
My number 8 was Awesome Kong. My number 9 was Ron Simmons. So I'll just jump right up to my number 10, and it's actually a tie between.
Cheater.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to get both of these. I just wanted to mention both of these guys, so I'll just mention them. I won't really get into their backgrounds. 2 guys that might surprise you. Ice Train from WCW.
That does
I
surprise me.
loved that guy's work.
Really?
That guy was great. That guy deserved a much bigger push than he got. He was great in the ring. He always had good matches. And another guy, Mr. Ebony, who was Tom Jones, and who Mad Dog. Little trivia for everyone out there: Mad Dog based his ring gear on Mr. Ebony.
Oh, is that who it was?
It was,
Right.
yeah, it was.
Okay.
It
All
was.
right.
All
Well-
right, Brace, just go ahead and run down the rest
Yep.
of your list.
Number 9 is Sonny King, and again, that was more of an older selection. Did a lot
Okay.
down south. Had the great punches, great on the stick, 70s into early 80s guy.
Yep, he was one of my honorable mentions as well.
Cool. And number 10, Rocky Johnson. We talked about him earlier, and you mentioned the who was the guy you said was the reason for your tights and whatever?
Mr. Ebony.
Mr. Ebony. Rocky Johnson always also wrestled as Sweet Ebony Diamond under a mask.
Oh, yeah, he did. I forgot about that.
That's right.
Yeah, just wanted to bring that back in.
I'd forgot about that.
Rocky Johnson, the Rock's dad.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
Can't beat that.
All right, Q. Who do you got?
Number 9 is R-Truth. So
Yeah.
just showing my age a little bit there.
Ron Killings and
Ron Killings, but
in TNA
today
he
was
had
amazing.
You were a big
amazing.
fan of Rod Killings.
I was.
Yeah.
He had just had some amazing matches in TNA.
Again,
Still had good matches in WWF,
WWE.
but they didn't compare.
no, but I will say one thing. I will say the matches that he put on with John Morrison,
Those were good.
those were, for a couple of times they stole the show.
Yeah.
A couple of times they stole the
I'll
show.
agree with that. And I'm glad to see that he's kind of getting some recognition again.
Well, I
finally.
think he's
But
ready to retire, but
I
the rumor in the
I
back,
think so, but
the rumor in the back is he's real good friends with Vince.
oh, okay.
And like him and Vince are really good
Really?
friends. Because Vince, like people
Like the Vince McMahon?
like you're fired, Vince McMahon. Yeah, but he's like real good friends with Vince, so
Okay.
that's why he sticks around when everybody else gone, and you still see him.
Oh, okay.
But I think injuries just caught up to him.
Yeah.
because like every time they
I
get
think
ready
so,
to give
too.
him a push,
Yeah, it seemed
he
like
gets
he'd
hurt.
disappear.
That happened to a lot of
Okay.
those guys. The
Yeah.
style they work now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
My
Q.
number 10 was Ron Simmons, and that was
Okay.
it.
All right. Thank you very much for
No
being
problem.
here, Q.
Anytime.
Where can people catch your television show, Comic Spear and Sci-Fi, and what time?
CW, 2:00 in the morning every Saturday night, 2 a.m. Sunday morning, Saturday night. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Comics Beer and Sci-Fi. Check us out.
Nice. Absolutely. I've seen it before. I've seen both of you guys on there in the
Yes.
same segments. Good
So
show.
nice. Oh yeah, thank you.
That's right. All right. Thanks, Brace. Any final parting words?
Oh, thanks for joining us. Mad Dog
Thanks for
again.
having me.
Fantastic job. Consummate
Thank you.
professional. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks for having
All
me.
right, everybody, just keep checking the Butch Blood Facebook page for updates on our next show. Hopefully, we'll see everybody next week. And take care.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh, you're not.
Well, I started this dance in my neighborhood. Now everybody's doing it because it feels so good. All you need is a partner that know how to move, and the rest is real easy.